Good evening and welcome to the Milford Board of Selectmen meeting of November 19, 2018. First agenda item is signing the warrant,
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded?
and I would vote in affirmative of that as well. The next agenda item is the approval, and we have 3 sets of minutes. So we have executive session for October 22nd, we have regular session for November 5th, and we have executive session for November 5th.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve those minutes.
And I'll second them.
And I also vote affirmative in that as well. Next agenda item is invitation to speak. Is anybody here for invitation to speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward and be recognized. And before you start, I'd like to just remind everybody that tonight I will do the same as I've done in the past. I'm going to allow 30 minutes for invitation to speak. I will allow any speaker to have 3 minutes. You can pass your minutes on to somebody else if you want to. That means you'll give up your opportunity to speak. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm going to allow 30 minutes for invitation to speak. And with that, sir, please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. My name is Bob Delmore. I live at 22 Princess Pine Lane in Milford. At the Selectmen's meeting on November 5th, Selectman Kincaid read a personal statement and entered that statement into the public record. In that statement, Selectman Kincaid referred to a post on social media. At the end of his public statement, while the board was in a brief recess, Selectman Kincaid identified me as the author of the post with others in the room. I did, in fact, post on Facebook on Friday evening, November 2nd. The post was up only briefly as I decided to pull it down very shortly after posting. When I pulled the post down, it had received no likes and there were no comments. The post is a matter of public record as Selectman Kincaid has forwarded a screenshot to me and others using his Town of Milford email account. The screenshot I was sent was taken 3 minutes after the post was made. The email he sent me was a reply to an email I had sent him indicating that my wife and I would be signing the recall petition. His message said, "Thanks, Bob," and the post was attached. Anyone who wishes to see a copy of the post can request a copy under the Freedom of Information Act. The post consisted of one sentence in which I referred to Selectman Kincaid's abusive power in the school system as relates to his son. I made no mention of his son's disabilities, no mention of his wife, and in no way disparaged Selectman Kincaid's son in any way. The post said nothing of the problems Selectman Kincaid's son may or may not face in school. There was no conversation on social media where grown men were picking on a disabled child, as was stated in Selectman Kincaid's public statement. There was no piling on, as was also stated. In no way was Selectman Kincaid's son used as fodder or collateral, as was stated. The post was directly pointed on the notion that an investigation of how Selectman Kincaid uses his seat on the Board of Selectmen to influence for personal gain what happens within the schools might yield results, nothing more. On Monday morning, November 5th, my wife Shannon, who has worked in the public school system for close to 10 years as a behavior assistant, was pulled into a meeting called by Superintendent McIntyre. Her principal was also in attendance and took notes. In that meeting, she was asked if I was her husband. She was then shown a screenshot of my post printed on letter-sized paper. The same screenshot forwarded to me via email by Selectman Kincaid. She was asked several times and from several different angles what she knew about the post. My wife did not know about the post and had not seen the post, and she told that to Superintendent McIntyre. At that point, my wife was accused of disseminating confidential information and felt her job was at risk. The conversation ended with the superintendent becoming frustrated with my wife and ending the meeting telling her his investigation would continue. Under the Freedom of Information Act, I've requested a copy of Selectman Kincaid's statement from you, Chairman Walsh, as well as a copy of the post. My wife has requested a copy of her personnel file as well as copies of the notes taken in a meeting by the principal from Superintendent McIntyre's office. She's also requested that she be notified when his investigation is completed. As of today, we have not received any information requested although Superintendent McIntyre did let my wife know she can copy her personnel file at any time. To the best of her knowledge, the investigation remains ongoing as she has not been notified otherwise. I'm disgusted that Selectman Kincaid would bring his son's issues into the public realm in an attempt to change the narrative as relates to the recall. I'm outraged that he would put my wife's position in the schools at risk. I view this retaliation as an attempt to intimidate me and silence my First Amendment right to free speech. What Selectman Kincaid said about me in his public statement and in the meeting during the recess amounts to defamation. He is the one who should be ashamed. I would ask you, Chairman Walsh, to please look into the events and the correspondence that led to my wife being brought in to a meeting with the superintendent at the behest of Selectman Kincaid. The citizens of Milford deserve a selectman with integrity. I'd like to speak for the just over 2,000 citizens of Milford who signed the recall petition, well in excess of the 1,681 that voted for Selectman Kincaid in the last election, in calling for Selectman Kincaid to please do the right thing and step down. I don't know if you need that.
Anybody else here for invitation to speak?
Thank you, Selectman. My name is Michael Rooney. I reside at 24 Depot Street in Milford, Mass.
Sorry, sir, your last name again?
Rooney, R-O-O-N-E-Y.
Thank you.
I have been following and involved in this recall effort since the beginning of it. And the more and more that has gone on within our town and what has come to light over the past couple days has put our town in very dire circumstance over this. It seems like more information is coming out day and day. And I'm going to ask you yet once again, as Mike Walsh asked last week at the last Selectmen meeting, to reopen the negotiations with the chief. Change the course and take action to do the right thing for this town, because it's the only thing that is going to help us and make this right. Because the more that keeps on coming out in all of these newspapers and the more traction that it's gaining is going to put our town in a bad light, and it's only going to cost us money in the long run. Thank you very much, Selectman.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else for invitation to speak? Yes, sir. Please come forward and identify yourself. Hi.
My name is Bernard Earl. I live at 6 East Street, Milford, Mass.
I'm sorry, sir, can you repeat your name?
My name is Bernie Earl,
Bernie Earl. Thank you.
6 East Street, Milford.
Thank you.
I'm a 40-plus year resident of this town. My wife is a lifelong resident of this town. We have put 2 children through the Milford school system, and I am outraged, disgusted, and ashamed of this Board of Selectmen's actions over the last 1.5 to 2 years of what is going on in this town. Mr. Buckley, you are shameful. Mr. Kincaid, you are shameless.
Mike, if you're going to cut off.
Hold on a second.
I'm
Charles?
sorry.
Let me remind everybody, this is not an opportunity for personal attacks.
It's not a personal attack.
It's not.
It's not a personal attack.
It's not.
If
Just
everybody-
sir, if I could
Yes,
stop
sir.
you for a second.
Absolutely.
Charles is town council. I have him here tonight to guide us through this.
Okay.
No
But
personal
what's-
attacks.
But what's going on in this
If I may
town?
just say
Yes,
one
sir.
thing. Again,
Absolutely, sir.
The purpose of this is to allow you to address the board, not to address individual board
Okay,
members.
all right.
And we ask that you have
Absolutely.
decorum, as you would expect it from the board. So
Correct.
As well, and from myself.
If anybody thinks this is personal, I speak not, and I'm sorry. But the actions of this board over the last 1.5 to 2 years is just, I don't know what to do. That's all I have to say. It's just terrible. And I'm just so frustrated because of the fact that I have never seen anything like this in any other town in the state of Massachusetts. The right thing to do would be to at least reconsider your decisions over the police chief's contract and at least tell us why he has been put in this position. if he has done something wrong, why hasn't there not been some kind of reprimand or some kind of written letter of willful, unknowledgeable wrongdoing? And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here for invitation to speak? How are you?
Karen Villani, and I was not planning to speak, but I feel like I have to. I find it offensive that Mr. Delmore came up here to try to justify anything said about Selectman Kincaid's son. I don't really care in terms of whether something real bad was said. In fact, he's admitted that what was said was a reference to a board member's family member. That's shameful. That's a problem. People in this room have keyboard courage. And they come here, they don't say the same things to your face that they say online. And it's wrong. And I'm really tired of it. And I'm sure I'll be abused by these same bullies, these social platform bullies that are out there, that seem to know every move that Will Kincaid makes, like he's got a GPS tracker on him. Yeah, you guys better wake up to the fact that one of you could be a victim someday because of these people that are acting crazy in this town. And the Milford Police Department has a great police department, and they're going to have their hands full if they don't start to take some of the social media stuff more seriously. And members of the police department shouldn't be on there also judging any residents. First and foremost, you're members of the police department. I was on the auxiliary police myself in this town. I served in this town. And I think it's shameful. These people claim to want to come together and do the best for the town. Let's see your names on the ballot. You sit there like a bunch of buffoons, half of you. I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed to be even a part of Milford. But my family all came from here. My father was a mayor of the Heights. My roots run deep in this town. Why do we have to be so divided? I don't agree with your decisions. I don't like what happened with Dennis. Carol, I didn't even know the guy, but I do feel like there should have been more discussion. I don't like that at all. I photographed many events that many police department members and people in Milford have been at. Who knows whether I have pictures of anybody having a good time? If I do, I'm not going to produce them. I think every member of the police department does their job and they do the best they can. I'd like to wait till the executive session minutes and everything's released to make full conclusions about things, but there's so much speculation and rumors and everybody knows everything. God, give me the lottery numbers. I'd like to know that. But enough is enough. Leave families out of it. And, to come up here and say, well, but I just said this. I'm sorry, Mr. Delmore. I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong. Because I know people that was on social media that said, I will stand up against anybody that said anything about William Kincaid's son. Where are you now? Instead, you ran back and you kept bitching and complaining about it. And you talked even worse about it, that he was using victimology. Using his son? What kind of people, what kind of human beings do that? Look in the mirror, but you go to church on Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Dave Levine, 8 Rosenfeld Ave. I'm just up here to say, have a good Thanksgiving. Let's take a break from all this. And I hope you enjoy the holidays with your families and think about what you're doing to other people's families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for invitation to speak? Yes, sir. Please identify yourself, sir.
Thank you. Mike Kaplan, 291 Main Street, Milford, Mass. I'm the past president of the Milford Bar Association, past president of the Rotary here in Milford as well. I just want you to know, I'm not going to say anything negative about the board. It's really just a positive comment about the chief. I want you to know he's one of the most accessible individuals. He had the forefront. He was one of the leaders in bringing issues of opioid addiction to the area. He's on the cutting edge. He really tries very hard. I can tell you the members of the bar, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the Bar Association, just speaking on behalf of myself. He really seems to be a very dedicated, intelligent, and heartfelt, really warm person. I really think he tries to do the right thing with people, and I've seen it personally in cases. Other attorneys have talked to me about it. I really think he is a great guy. I think he is the best person for the position, and I would hope that the town reconsiders its position.
Thank you. Anybody else here for invitation to speak? How are you? Please, please identify yourself.
Okay.
First timers.
Yeah, we're first timers. Can I touch this?
You sure can.
Sure.
I know you, Mr. Walsh, because your daughter and I used to work together. My name is Sasha Meyer. This is my husband, Eric Meyer. We own 207 Main Street here in Milford, Bella Gente Salon. Before I begin and say what I'm about to say, I understand that there's a lot going on with Chief O'Laughlin, and that's not what we're here to talk about. But I do support Chief O'Laughlin. Okay. There is a crisis that's happening right now in the town of Milford with your sewer department. I don't know if anyone in this room right now has been affected with what my husband and I have been affected with since Tuesday of this week, but seeing as I know for a fact that I started a trend with the revitalization with the town of Milford with all the construction that I did on my property, I feel as though that my voice and my husband's voice needs and must be heard tonight. Effective Tuesday of this week at 12 o'clock, my business got infiltrated with sewer water, which completely destroyed the lower level of my property. I want to also start off by saying that I did everything to code with this town when I did my construction. Every permit was pulled correctly, everything was signed off correctly, beginning, middle, and end of construction. We got an occupancy permit to do business in the lower level. If you want to pull up that thing that we just found, I don't know if...
No, it's not for right now.
Okay. Either way, we have spent a tremendous amount of money investing into the property of which we purchased, 207 Main Street.
A lot of money to us.
A lot of money to us.
Of course.
Excuse me.
We also invested a tremendous amount of money to rehab the property. And it's extremely frustrating to find that when I had the commissioner, that's the correct name, right?
Sewer commissioner.
Of the sewer commissioner come to my property twice and tell me that I have cracks in my pipes, and that is why sewer water is coming in.
And he said it's our issue.
He said it's not the town's
We
issue.
shouldn't do business in the basement.
Excuse me.
What else did he tell us?
He
Oh,
told
he
us
said it was cracked. The pipe was cracked, and then there was a clog. So it's two different scenarios. It wasn't them. It's on us. And there's, I don't know, 10, 12 other businesses
that have been affected by
basement full of
this.
sewage water. We thought it was just us. And as we're getting into this, it's
I don't
a
know if,
global problem.
yeah, I'm not sure if any of you have been affected with sewer water in your property, but it's an extremely horrific smell. I am considered an upscale boutique salon, which means I am dealing with a lot of high-end individuals who are willing to spend money for services. And when I have to call them less than a week before Thanksgiving to let them know they cannot be serviced, I don't think that you gentlemen understand how frustrating that is, not just for me, but for my clients and my employees. We firmly believe something needs to be done in this town because you have very old infrastructure that is not supporting the growth of what you guys, from what I understand, are trying to do. You're trying to make Milford better. You're trying to grow. You're trying to make everything within the town, commercial-wise, residential-wise, everything better. And you're not focusing, in our opinion, on what's going on underneath the ground.
Everything
It's
has to
like
grow
Band-Aid
at
on
the
top
same
of
time.
Band-Aid. The commissioner said to us, the pipes withstand, they're a century old, they withstand 3 million gallons of water.
4 million gallons of water.
And at the time that he came to visit our property, there was between 11 and 14 million gallons of water flooding through, trying to go through the pipes. And that, again, our fault. How is that our fault?
Well, you design a sewage system, it has to be designed to the 14 million gallons, because that's your worst case scenario. If you design it to 6 million, it's too small. So either the plant's too small, the piping's too small, but there is a fix. Nobody told us what the fix was. We have hopefully fixed it. She's still walking on eggshells because I'm not confident flushing the toilet. I'm not confident turning the sink on.
Well, not 100%.
Well-
What have we done? Okay, what have we done? We have put a backflow preventer onto our sewer line within our side of the walls to prevent sewer water from coming in. Is that a permanent fix? We don't know. Did we put other check valves in other areas on our brand new pipe? Yes. Could this have been prevented? Yeah, if the plumbing and sewer people actually communicated with one another when I was doing construction to say, hey, by the way, in 2008, we flooded with sewer water up and down Main Street and throughout Milford. You might want to consider putting this on your property because you're investing so much
The
money.
National Plumbing Code calls for a back water valve on all drains out a building, either on the outside or the inside. I know it's national, it's not local, and local kind of supersedes, but if you have a sewage problem or a sewage backup problem you've had in the past, when you're signing these buildings off, you should say, hey, make sure you put a back water valve on, because there is potential to
Have an issue.
sewage backup. I mean,
I would like our voice heard. I've already reached out to I don't know if I should be even saying this on, because I know this is going on your TV, like public. I've already reached out to Channel 25, I've already reached out to Channel 7, and I've already reached out to my lawyer, because I am very frustrated that I feel as though by me doing the construction that I did, created a trend. So if I know that I'm helping to make your town, which I've worked in for the last 15 years, better, I would expect the people of the town, the people in this building who signed the proper paperwork to allow me to work where I'm working and my employees to be where they're working, to do right by me, to do right by my employees, and to do right by my clients.
and I guess the main goal here is, it seems like the sewer commission is its own little entity on a little island, and I can't crack them. I need somebody that's higher than me to, because it's what it seems like, how I'm figuring it out. It seems like they can do whatever they want, and they can say whatever they want, and there's nobody above the sewer commissioner.
Also, not to sound disrespectful or rude, because I understand that you gentlemen.
If that's how it is, it's either got to change, or somebody has to crack that nut, and because then nothing's going to happen.
Intercede.
I understand that you guys are listening right now. Like, I've never been to a meeting like this. I've never had to be at a meeting like this. And I understand the energy in here is not very positive. So, I will tell you this. I have never met a more arrogant and disrespectful man in my entire life. I am Sicilian. I am strong-willed. I will hold my own. If that man is in charge of what's going on in this, with the water conditions and the sewer conditions in this town, if he treated anyone else who is not as strong as I am and has enough guts to come in here and talk to you three men, you guys have a problem. He wanted this position, from what I gather. We did a little research on him. He wanted to be in that position. He wanted to do his job. He's not doing his job.
And I don't know if we're the first people you've heard from, I can imagine, about this, or no? Because
this
This is the second.
Second.
Because there's
Okay.
about 10, 12 other people that are
That's
still
what they said.
knee-deep in sewage, so they're just not here yet. And I hope they all come, and I hope they voice their concerns, because it's nasty, and it shouldn't happen.
And it's unsanitary. Board of Health,
Yeah, it seems like the Board of Health doesn't,
they don't care.
don't care either.
They appear to not care very much. Everyone we've tried calling from the town seems to want to put their hands in the air like it's not their problem. And I get it. Who wants to deal with sewer? That's disgusting.
Well, the Board of Health should want it.
Right, but like when you have an emergency plumber in your facility, in your building from 10 o'clock at night until 1:30 in the morning, then you have another company come in the next day at 7 o'clock in the morning. They're there until about, I don't know, 11 or 12. It was like company after company after company after company that kept looking at me and my husband in the eye saying, you don't have a clog. You don't have a problem. This is a town problem. And now, like, the
And
frustration.
then the sewer department comes and says, not our
No,
problem.
not our problem. Water department, nope, gotta talk to the sewer department. So we're here to let you know, I'm very disappointed. I feel like the town has let me down. I need you guys to make this right. I feel like for all the money that's been invested with putting new roads down and doing this and doing that and making everything look beautiful, focus on what's down underneath and fix that first, please. That's my piece.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I might. I'm familiar with that business. They have invested a great deal, and
Thank you.
you know, for anything I can say, not being responsible for sewer, but I also want to say I'm sorry that that happened to you. You're the first one that I've talked to on Main Street having this issue. The Board of Selectmen over a number of years have interceded, have met with the sewer department, have contacted the sewer department, and Mr. Chairman, my recommendation is that we hear from the chairman of the sewer department.
Who, excuse
Sewer
me, Mr.
commissioners.
Buckley, but who would that be?
Who's the chairman now? Rick?
Is it Rudy?
I don't know.
Rudolph?
Listen, I'll be more than happy. Can I please be
Nadella?
notified when they're here? Because I would like to hear what this man has to say.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is get a better understanding and get a report. See if we can get that from the sewer commissioners and make that available to the public to understand what happened on Main Street. We've heard, I think we all received a letter and correspondence about Main Street businesses and sewer backups.
Yes, you did. I know who sent that to you.
Yeah, so we can get a better understanding, and the business owners can get a better understanding. You know, notwithstanding the communication that you had and the challenges that you had, I wasn't present, so, but I can tell you there are good people there, hardworking employees. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with communication, but it's my suggestion that this board look into it and address it and get information back from the sewer commissioners to you and to us.
We appreciate that. I'm going to just say one more thing and then we'll let someone else talk. From what I gather, from what John Manini, I think that's how you say his name because that is who I dealt with.
The only caution I'm going to have for you is
Don't do that.
I wouldn't.
Didn't,
I wouldn't.
I apologize. I didn't intend
That's a
to.
no. You know, the idea of the public forum. Look, these are your chairs, right? This is your chair I'm sitting in, and this is your building. You pay taxes, and you're citizens, and I'm mindful of that, and so is this board. But at the same time, we try to make sure that, you know, if somebody's name is mentioned, they have the opportunity to respond and defend themselves.
Totally get it.
And
Newbie. Won't
no,
happen
that's
again.
all right. That's all right. You haven't done anything. I just wanted to caution before it happened, because it's kind of hard to unring a bell.
Sure.
So why don't we do that and see if we can get that as fast as possible? And I guess I'm going to reach out to Ron Pagnini, who contacted us to let us
I've been
know.
in touch with him. He had planned to come this evening.
And I think what he has is the list of businesses, because I at least want this board to understand and the businesses to understand what they think caused it, what's happening, and how one might prevent it if they have a business and made these investments.
Oh, by the way, so this morning, I couldn't sleep last night.
Oh, yeah.
Last night, you could tell how high the sewage was in the pipe. You could bang on the pipe and hear full pipe, empty pipe. Couldn't sleep last night. I ran over there at 6:30 this morning. The water department told us to jam a towel into the sink because there was no other way to hold it back. We had a dirty old towel holding the sewage back.
That was the only way we could isolate it.
Banged on the pipe, sounded empty. I pulled out the towel, empty. So from 10 o'clock last night to 6:30 this morning, the supposed overflowing sewage went down 5 feet. I don't, from stagnant, overflowed to, I don't think that's feasible or
I'm not a
possible.
hydraulics or sewage expert. I do
My
know.
husband, not to toot his own horn, but like He works in the city, he deals
That
with this
to
stuff
me is
all
like
the
the
time.
claw
He's
got
pretty
removed.
knowledgeable.
Oh, you know what I mean? And then
It
they
just
said, oh, yeah,
seems strange
and then we
that-
called them, and I said, were you gonna notify us? And they said, oh, yeah, the water must have went down. I go, that's all you can say, the
For
water
5
went down?
days straight, it's
I
been
mean-
flooding in, and then all of a sudden, bam, gone. There's something not right.
That's-
Something very, very not right.
Solution was found, problem was fixed.
Okay.
So if I may comment on that, and you're 100% right. My daughter's in the same business as you are. She owns her
Yes,
own
she is.
business, and
Do you understand?
she's out of her mind right now, trying to get everybody ready for Thanksgiving. I
Yes.
talk to her every single day, and I get it. And I applaud you and your husband, I should say, for taking the time to invest in our community, spend the money in our community. And what's happened to you is unacceptable.
Thank you.
And when I walked into town hall, and Mr. Villani's right over there, I said, when is the next meeting? He said, tomorrow night. And I said, I will be there. Because there were some people upstairs tonight when I came into town hall tonight, and I said, I'll be there. It's unacceptable. There are answers that need to be answered. Questions, I should say, that need to be answered. And what you're going through is unacceptable.
Thank you.
And we need to know why. We need to know why. And you're 100% right. And I speak for my two fellow board members, and not that I should, but I do. We're the elected officials. You people come here and elect us to do a job.
Right.
And for that to happen to you, for you to come into our community, invest in our community, want to do business in our community is unacceptable. That we don't protect you. We don't protect you, and we don't take the right action. And so I can tell you this, tomorrow night I'll be there. I'll be there, and I hope you'll be there. I hope you.
What's tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night is Rick, the sewer board.
Oh, what time? Because I will make my schedule very clear.
And I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. People can laugh all they want. You need to be there. You need to be there.
Are the friends from the sewer department gonna be there?
Whoever's going to be there is going to be there. I can tell you this, and I commit to this. I'll be there. As chairman of your board of selectmen, I will be there.
Do you know what time this meeting is at? 6 o'clock. Great, we're gonna move some people tomorrow, and I will be here.
Okay?
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Very
Thank you.
much.
Is there anybody else here for invitation to speak? Yes, ma'am. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Siobhan Bonson. I'm a senior vice president over at Milford Federal Bank. I've been there 7 weeks. I am in charge of facilities. Guess where I spent my weekend? We have been inundated over there. I had to have plumbers, septic system people 24/7. I don't live in the area. I basically slept at the bank all weekend. I did hear that other banks closed. We were able, because we have another building next to us, to compensate and keep our employees. I called. I was out of town. I came back on Thursday. I called the town and they told me there was no problem. I was like, what? So communication to begin with, and then I got bounced around to a couple different places, and they finally admitted that, yes, there was a problem, but it took me like 4 times. So that really bothers me. I'm also a selectman in my own small community, so I know where you're sitting. I'm not picking and accusing of anybody, but for somebody to call the town and be told there's not a problem, and actually put me on hold, but I could hear it and said, oh, did you hear? Is there a problem? And 3 people, I heard them say, no, there's not. I called the Board of Health, they weren't interested. So we have literally been 24/7 at the bank, trying to keep it under control, morning, noon, and night. And when the people came up finally yesterday afternoon, they told us and the plumber to put cloth in the sinks, and that would take care of it. Which, with the flow of water that was coming in, it was like you were in an ocean. And it stopped for a couple of hours on Friday afternoon and then started again. And they said, oh, they tried letting some of the water out, and then it came back. So I just would like to know, when I asked yesterday what they were going to do about it, I was told absolutely nothing, that there is nothing that they can do, and that the system is what it is. And we were told that because of the amount of flow coming in and the people that have some pumps going into it illegally are causing the problems. So as the Board of Selectmen, I just heard about the meeting tomorrow night. I will attend that meeting, but I really think to start with communication, and we are in a total disaster, and there was no communication back to us at all, and I'm sure we're on the record of having called many times that we think we got it fixed. So again, we had to reach out to them, because when I showed up there last night at 10 o'clock, the flow was much less, and I met the plumber again. And then when we went back this morning at 7, it was very small, but nobody, when I called town, could give me any information. So better communication is something that would have been very helpful, especially trying to see if we can keep the doors open. As you know, we're the last community bank around. We've been in Milford forever. We're local, we want to stay, but this has been a very difficult situation, and we have a lot of work that we have to do in our building because of it. So I appreciate it, and I will be here tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here for invitation to speak? Okay. Next agenda item is public hearings. Tonight's public hearing is the order taking on Route 16, which will be addressed by our town council, Charles Body. Anybody who is here and would like to respond after Charles makes his presentation is more than welcome to come forward and speak. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we're here before you tonight with respect to the traffic improvement project that's scheduled for Route 16. Just as way for informational background, the project encompasses from approximately Draper Park in that vicinity all the way up to the Hopedale town line. The project proposes a reconstruction of certain aspects of the roadway, which will involve necessarily a series of different sorts of takings. As a group, the takings are primarily temporary construction easements, which means that there'll be 3 years in duration, and it's basically for tying in the existing sidewalks and driveway aprons to the reconfigured road site. When we get up close to Milford Regional Hospital, that intersection will be reconfigured. It will be, the radii on the corners will be made in such a way that tractor trailers can navigate it more easily, and so there's less likelihood that in times of great calamity, you're going to get a traffic blockage there that would prevent people from getting to the emergency room. So there are approximately 74 easements involved. I will say there are some takings as well. There were very few takings overall. Maybe approximately 8 permanent takings. Then there is some highway sign takings. There are permanent utility easements, which is for location or relocation of telephone poles. There are the temporary construction easements, which I've already described as being tying in the existing properties. There'll be some permanent highway sign takings as well. The whole lot of these takings, there's approximately 74 of them, will cost us, the town of Milford, something in excess of $100,000, approximately $100,000 to $120,000, which is not considering the Milford Regional Hospital takings, which will be addressed later on as a separate taking, because their parcels for Milford Regional are substantial, and the appraisals have just come in today on those, so we're not dealing with those this evening, and I want to make that clear for purposes of discussion, but also for purposes of your understanding. The way that these takings work is these are takings that are absolutely necessary in order for the traffic improvement project on Route 16 to take place. If we don't have these takings in one form or another, that project can't happen. If we don't get the takings in a timely fashion, then what will happen is this project, which is funded and is ready to go out to bid sometime shortly, it's been received environmental approvals and other approvals from the state MassDOT. If we do not get these takings in place, what will happen is the funding will be removed, project will be funded in some other community, and we will be back waiting for funding to come back into place, and they'll point their fingers and blame us for this delay. So it is somewhat critical. We being the town hall and the town council's office, have received quite a bit of information in terms of people's concerns with respect to these takings, and we've been able to address them. Almost everyone who's come either called by phone or come in to talk to us has been absolutely satisfied with the explanations that we received, which is in some sense good. What we've explained to them is that the temporary construction easements are simply temporary in nature. There will be some interruption to access to their properties during the actual physical reconstruction of the roadway, but that should be rectified each and every day so that cars can enter onto the property, the private property, and exit off the private property, at the beginning and end of the days, if not at other times too. Presumably, this construction will be just like other similar construction projects in that it's going to be rolling. It's not going to take place along the entire length of the proposed project site all at one time. It's going to start in different sections, and different work will be done, and as one section is completed in one portion of the project, it would move on. In any event, the way the takings work is that we, the town, with your vote, will be able to take these takings whether the parties agree or not. As I stated, there's been some confusion as to what we are taking, whether these temporary takings are permanent, what's permanent, how much the compensation is, etc. The way the compensation has been derived is that we have hired a very good, very experienced appraiser who is experienced not only in appraisals but in eminent domain appraisals such as these circumstances. He has then gone out and looked at each parcel, whether it be temporary, permanent, etc., that is being taken, each of the 74, looked at all the properties, and using his own analysis as well as comparables and prior takings from other communities, given the nature of what they're taking, and assigned a value to those. We've then sent out notice to all the property owners advising them that here are the takings that concern you, the property owner. Here's what we're taking, here's a plan of what we're taking, and here's the amount that we're offering in compensation. So if a party disagrees with the taking or does not want to give the taking, they don't necessarily have a choice, but they can create an issue over the what's called the pro tanto payment, or the payment for the diminution in their regular property values. Now, none of these takings are so substantial that it will affect the assessment of the properties, first of all. The second thing is that the appraisals that were given to us by this initial appraiser are then, as is required by state law, sent out to a second appraiser, who then does a peer review. That review is independent of the first review, but it is looking at the analysis as well as the result of the analysis in that appraisal. So in essence, by virtue of looking at this, we haven't had one appraisal done on each taking. We've had two. So we have two appraisers experienced in these sorts of takings, look at them, and the peer review has come back and has concluded that the initial appraisal in each one of these circumstances was valid, that the appraisal is a valid analysis of the value of that site. With respect to Milford Regional Hospital, just for your information, again, it's not part of tonight's discussion, but Milford Regional Hospital's evaluations have not yet been peer reviewed. Another reason why they are not being dealt with in this order of taking. I have with me this evening a list of the parcels. I have a list of what the takings are for. Some parcels are being taken, and the only thing we're taking them for, which is a temporary taking, is for looming and seeding, basically to regrade the property after the construction goes through and the sidewalks rebuilt and so forth. And so in that regard, they're relatively minor. There are a couple for guy wires. I've been asked, what's a guy wire? The guy wire is what you sometimes see running from a utility pole down a cable that runs down to kind of provide an extra anchor or a stay for that pole for stabilization. So there are some of those in here as well. All that having been said, certainly with the list of them, I'm here to answer anyone's question with respect to the nature of the takings. Some questions perhaps might be better served in my office where I have the full things. I do have plans here as well. I don't anticipate that we would take up a lot of your time as a board to discuss the individual takings, but I'm certainly willing to meet with anyone that has questions on them. Having said that, I'm going to ask you gentlemen if you have any questions. You do have a proposed order of taking. The one that the one that's I'm going to request you to sign is slightly different. We've made some minor changes, but not substantive, to the form of this between the time it was placed in your folders last week and today. But in general nature, the first couple of pages is the order of taking, which is just saying that the money's been appropriated, the town meeting has approved you exercising the authority to undertake the takings if you're so disposed this evening. And then towards the end is a schedule of all the takings that are part of this order this evening. They're listed both by property owner as well as by street address, by deed reference, by plan reference, and by the square footage taken and the appraised value. All of this, once you sign it, assuming you vote in favor of it, will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds along with a copy of the plan, the taking plan, which our town engineer has. That will be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And as I've explained to people, and to obviate the need for further questions and discussions on this aspect of it, I just add that once the approval is done, the checks are cut, the recording is done at the Registry of Deeds in Worcester, then we will send out letters to all the respective property owners advising them that the checks are ready to be picked up. They'll be invited to come to the office, discuss the taking, sign, and receive their checks. So having said that, is there anything else that I might supply you with that would assist you in making a decision this evening?
Thank you, Charles. Your packet was complete and thorough, so I don't have any specific questions. I know that we've been working on this with the state for a very long time. You don't get this far in the process without it, and I think this board and past boards have acknowledged the need to do something, and more specifically in that area of Main Street and 140.
Yes.
It's a congestion area. It's an area that impacts hospital emergency vehicles. It at times can choke back all the way back into Mendon. It's been the site of numerous accidents, and I think, Rick, we had put aside a specific budget for the takings, and I'm not sure it's going to be enough.
I don't think it is, but that's something we can better address. I think it's sufficient for this taking.
I think it is.
We may have an issue with the second take.
Right, it's going to be, yeah. And when I recommended $200,000 a few years ago, people thought it was crazy to put away that kind of money for this taking. But it's been an area that we know we need, and we've been working with the state. For the folks at home that don't always understand how all this works, and it's always a surprise to many. It was a surprise to me when I first started. The state comes in with a great deal of funding for this.
Yes.
The thing they don't fund are the takings.
The state, by the way, I just may add to that's a very important point. The state has its own takings, which it has to go through its own procedural aspects in order for them to do their takings. These takings are our takings. It's totally separate and apart from the additional takings that will be done by the state to cobble together to make the project come to fruition.
But, it's long been recognized as an area of concern, and I would support it, but that's all I have.
Yeah, no, all I'll add is this has been going on for some time, and we knew this was coming. We've had public hearings. I know we had a few MassDOT-sponsored events upstairs where people could see on the map and how much was going to be taken, but are there any abutters here that have any questions or anything. That's the only thing I want to wait for prior to.
I would,
Okay.
once Charles is done, then I'll,
Okay, great. I don't have any other questions.
so,
Thank you, Charles.
yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I'll open
Thanks,
up
Charles.
the public hearing. Mr. Kaplan. I should say Attorney Kaplan, I'm sorry.
I'll answer to both and a lot worse. Gentlemen, I just wanted to, I have photos for each of you,
Thank you.
just so you can take a look. The first
Thank you.
page. Thank you. The first page, we own a commercial building which has 2 handicap ramps on Main Street. And so, obviously, the last week or so, or 2 weeks, there was the project in front of our building as well, putting in pipes. I don't know what was being done, but laying some pipes. So we are concerned, the tenants and I, of a couple of things. In the first picture, you see the signboard, the main signboard. Are you gonna be extending and removing that? Is that something, because I couldn't tell from the, and I apologize, I didn't make more copies, but Mr. Walsh, I couldn't really tell from that particular schematic, which was attached in the letter that came to my office, exactly what was being taken, and I'm not sure that other folks can discern from that particular map what is being taken or not being taken. So I understand, this is a temporary, is that right, on this
I
property?
just need to see the,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, what's the property address? I mean,
It's
excuse me,
280.
no, that's not gonna help me. What is the, T63, Edward Kaplan, A&G Realty Trust,
Yeah, that's one of them.
and 66. TE 63 and 66 are both temporary easements. The designation TE indicates it's a temporary easement.
And so does everything get put back the way it was? Is that
Yeah.
the idea, guys?
Yes.
So what will happen is TE 60, excuse me, I'm sorry, I got wrong. TE 63, what will happen is the property will be restored, and what the easement is for, grading, looming, seeding, and brick walkway and driveway reconstruction. So,
Okay.
they're going to, excuse me, they're going to, obviously, at some point, break away the driveway aprons and the walkways, et cetera, from the public way, then they'll put them back. And in this case, they're gonna be using like materials. So it should be restored. The grading shouldn't change significantly, I don't think, for that. That would be that would be a question better responded to by the town engineer. But based on what I'm seeing here for 63, all they're going to do is do the tie-ins to tie the walkway and the driveway back in at the end, and to loom it and seed it so that the grading is appropriate and people aren't tripping and falling.
And on page 2 of the photos,
Yes.
Council, that I gave you, you can see that there's a wooden box with railroad ties that actually has pipes in it. So, is that something that we're gonna have to, or they'll remove and put back? Is that the idea?
I'm not sure whether, that would be that's an engineering question, that's not something I can answer, but what I can say to you is that if there is some interruption, my understanding of, with whatever those pipes are, if there's some interruption with the services that are communicated from the way to the building, that those would be, if they're interrupted at all, they'd be restored, and presumably whatever structures exist on the site will be put back.
So the amount, just so clarification if I may, the amount of money that is being suggested in the letter per person, per landowner, is that independent of the town or the engineering folks replacing or putting back the property in its original state?
Yes, it's not compensating you for any disturbance in the, let's say in this instance, the landscape timbers.
Okay.
It's compensating you for the inconvenience and for the access to it.
Thank you. 'Cause that's
But the
what I was
work,
worried about.
no, the work for the, I don't see the brick walkway, I see it in the first picture, not in the second, but the restoration with in-kind materials to restore it to the type and form of structure that existed previously, that is done as part of the project. That's not done as a compensation to you.
Okay.
And
So
you're not,
It cost us more money
Yeah.
than what we're
nor,
getting with the
and if I may add, nor are you expected to go about getting your own contractor to do that. That's done, that's part of the project.
All right. Thank you very much. That, I can relay that back to a whole host of tenants and the trustees. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
May I just have that one plan? Is that what I
Oh, Charles has it.
Oh.
Charles.
That one pager?
Yeah, this one.
Nope,
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
And Charles, if I may ask you this question, in reference to Mr. Kaplan, in the figure that is assessed to the property, is there anything assessed in that figure to compensate the businesses that are in his building?
No, there's nothing that in any way compensates for economic losses. You know, obviously with a project of this large extent, for lack of better terms, it's anticipated that there'll be some provision so that business won't be interrupted. You know, there'll temporary walkways, temporary access, police details, et cetera, so that, you know, there's bound to be some impact from people who choose not to use that route while it's under construction, but nonetheless, to minimize those effects. And that, you know, any economic losses that might occur are so difficult to calculate anyway. We don't do that, nor are we required to under state law for eminent domain takings for public way improvement projects.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here for the public hearing? Yes, sir.
I just have one question.
Sure, come on right up and please identify yourself and,
Once again, Burial, 50th Street.
well, you gotta sit in the chair and, so the public knows who you are.
Burial, 50th Street. I just want to know, is this going to be anything like the last traffic flow construction that took away all the right-hand turn lanes down Main Street, East Main Street? Because that's a disaster.
I don't think we could,
Also, huh?
I don't think we could answer that question
I
tonight.
understand that, but I'm hoping that somebody will overlook what the state's going to do. It seems like nobody has control of what the state's going to do. And the same thing, what happened over at the new Stop and Shop Plaza, that left-hand turn off of 109.
Mhm.
That should have been, somebody should have done something about that, because that turn has always been there. And now it's taken away, and everybody's still turning there.
Mhm.
So I don't know if somebody, if the engineering department here can get in touch with DOT or Mass DOT and do something about that to give us that left-hand turn lane back into that shopping center. It's terrible there.
We'll take that under advisement.
Yeah. That's all I gotta say about that. I just don't trust this new, I don't trust it. Sorry, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Anybody else for the public hearing? Okay, next agenda item is,
There's a
Get
vote.
sorry?
We get a motion to
Oh, I'm
approve
sorry.
the taking, the vote, and then I have the taking to be signed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we support the recommendations of council in the preparation of the order of taking for this project on Main Street and the intersections, intersection of Route 140 and Route 16.
And I'll second that.
And I would make that unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. You. Next agenda item is scheduled appointments, the Milford War Memorial Revitalization Committee for Draper Park.
Thank you, ladies, good job.
Come on, Paul, front row, front row.
I gotta support them, I gotta pinch them. If you see them go out, that means stop.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us. Steve, myself, and unfortunately, Brian had to leave. He's got to pick up his family at the airport, so he stayed as long as he could. But we're here to introduce the Milford War Memorial Parks Revitalization Committee and our goals that go along with it, of course. The committee's made up of very dedicated Milfordians. Our state rep, Brian Murray, who was also the chairman of the War Memorial Committee back in the early 90s, and our Board of Selectmen chairman, Mike Walsh, is part of the committee. Park Commissioner Paul Pellegrini, who's here tonight, Chairman of Citizens for Milford, and professional civil engineer Steve Treadle, Paul Malnati, who's a member of the Downtown Revitalization Committee, Nancy Wojcik is treasurer of the committee and CF member, who's also here tonight. Donna Nero is secretary and CFM member. She's here tonight. Rosemary Treadle is CFM member. She's here. My wife, Claudia, sitting here, is also a member of the committee and a CFM member. And actually, the revitalization was her idea, and it came to light during our first CFM Draper Park Field of Flags installation. She pointed out the deterioration that actually has taken place to this jewel over the years. And I'm the chairman of the committee. So our committee has a twofold mission. Number one, to assist town officials in the repair and revitalize Draper Memorial Park and Calzone Memorial Park, and doing this while preserving the original design. Secondly, we want to establish an organization that provides future maintenance of both parks to ensure the continued longevity of the parks and their structures for future generations. We also plan on meeting with each of the local veteran organizations and historical committee to keep them apprised of what our plans are and get their input as well. So this concern was also discussed with the park commissioners at the Citizens for Milford public meeting in January, and we're thankful to have their support, as well as the support of many town officials in moving forward with the plan to ensure that both Draper Park and Calzone Memorial Park are restored to their original glory and remain places of respect and pride for all future Milfordians. And now I'll hand this over to, I'll get here Brian. Brian's not here, to Steve, and then Steve will explain the 3 phases of our project plan. 4 phases.
4 phases. Sorry. A project like this is complicated because it's going to involve a lot of input for a lot of different people. And I think a mistake that's made a lot of times with projects like this in municipalities is that they go right to construction, right to design and construction, without adequate getting the input of all the stakeholders that might be involved here. And so they have a set of construction plans, they're ready to go out to bid, and they get a lot of complaints and second guesses, and the project gets held up. So the way we plan this out is to do this in 4 phases. And the 4th phase is the preliminary phase where we would put out an RFP, engage a landscape architect to produce a conceptual plan of all the work to be done, and make a cost estimate of what the construction cost would be for that plan, what the engineering and construction cost would be for that plan. That way, when it's presented at town meeting, you're presenting the town meeting members with a very specific plan of the nature of what's going to be done, and you know approximately what the cost is going to be, so you know what you're asking town meeting to vote on. So that's the essence of Phase 1. There's a lot to it. First of all, the committee has gone through both parks in detail, and they've kind of elected me to do the civil engineering here. So, we prepared a 4-phase plan. Okay, the first is to put out an RFP, engage a licensed landscape architect to prepare this plan based on, and this would be a collaborative thing between the committee, any other stakeholders, and the architect, and produce this conceptual plan of the improvements and repairs to be made. Having done that, we would propose to take this to whatever the whatever the proper route is, to town meeting for approval, where we could show the plan, display the plan, have people look at it, describe it, and know what we're asking for in costs. Phase 2 would be, well, if approved at town meeting, then the tab would be with the town, and so therefore it's going to require a town committee, a town-appointed committee, to supervise this. And so at that point, we would be asking you guys to appoint a committee to follow to Phase 2. Phase 2 is where all the detailed plans and specifications and bid documents will be prepared in accordance with state regulations. That's a big, long, formal process, and that's going to be part of the expense of moving towards construction. And also in Phase 2 would be the bidding process to contractors, preparation of bid documents and putting it out for bid, all in accordance with the state regulations for bidding jobs like this. Phase 3 would be the actual construction, and the successful bidder would presumably do all the work in accordance with the detailed plans and specifications, and it would be overseen by by this committee appointed by the selectmen, and with the help of the architect and hopefully the town engineer as well. So we plan to make sure that any construction that's implemented would be done under a lot of scrutiny. And then the final phase, Phase 4, which is something that we never had before, would be some kind of plan, and this is kind of vague right now, but a plan for regular maintenance of the park so we don't suffer this kind of deterioration in the future. So that's the concept, and the idea of Phase 1 is we would be accomplishing Phase 1, including the RFP for the architect and the preliminary plan and proposal to town meeting. That would be all on the committee. And we would fund this by donations from local businessmen along Main Street there. And so that would be our gift to the town. After that, the actual implementation of the final documents and the construction itself would be on a town staff. So that's kind of our plan. We think it's doable. It's going to be carefully planned. And we'd like to hear what you guys think about it.
Bill?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve, you and I had an opportunity to talk about this briefly. You know, I'm in full support of improving our war memorials and our commitment to our current veterans and past veterans. It's an easy thing to get behind. But having said that, I was just curious about the time frame that you project. What type of time frame are we talking about?
Talking about implementing phase one to the point where we would be able to go in front of town meeting this spring.
So, but you're not looking for specific funds, is that right?
Yes, we would be.
You would be. Okay, so.
Approval of the plan and approval of the estimate.
The only concern that folks might have is that, and I'll leave this to the FinCom, but the only concern that folks might have are the time frame. In other words, we have a capital budget process, we have 5-year plans, we have people get in line, essentially, putting their projects in place, and everybody looking to spread out a limited amount of funds in a way that's equitable. And so the only thing that I think I see as a challenge is getting in that queue as opposed to jumping right to town meeting. It may be a challenge. Yeah. And so I think we would need to vet this a little bit with FinCom. And I don't want to throw out bureaucracy at you, but it's a practical part of life in municipal budgeting and what the FinCom does, right? And not to rule out, our director of finance and others that, do it for full-time as well. But we have a war memorial. We should keep up with it. We have 2 parks that you've brought out specifically. And, I'm supportive of it. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a motion tonight that creates an ad hoc committee. Because right now, there is no standing and there is no appointment yet of this committee. It's self-imposed, and what I want to do is give it the support from this board and make a motion that we appoint an ad hoc committee and name yourselves and the people who are involved today. That doesn't mean that people won't come and go over the lifespan of the project and that you can't replace and add other people. And the last thing I'd encourage the group to do, and you said it, by the way, when you involve stakeholders and folks within the community to provide input, I just want to make sure that we especially reach out to those veterans organizations uniquely, to have them as part of, not maybe just stakeholders, maybe as a permanent member of your committee.
Well, the first 2 we identified were the veterans organizations and the historical commission.
But you have standing members that are a part of those veterans organizations that help put all this together and the original designs.
Okay.
I was thinking about standing members rather than just feedback, because there are going to be things that crop up over time and different design considerations and different things that you want it real time. You don't have to go out and get it, but those people, some number of people sitting on that committee who can represent those club members, and those Italian American veterans is one of them to obviously think of that are active in the community, and any other local veterans groups that you think are appropriate. Because I know there are times and different challenges that we've done with different memorials where I just don't want them saying our voices weren't heard, right? So if they have a standing seat, then they're good.
You're saying don't just invite them in, but have some member on the committee.
Yeah, I think the appointment should come. We can add members from this committee, from this board.
See, I think a part of this meeting tonight is kind of make this everyone aware of what we're doing.
Yeah, and get this type of input.
Get attention and get it going.
Yeah, and I'm in full agreement. And I just don't want you out there sailing without a rudder. What I want to make sure is that this is an appointed ad hoc committee from the Board of Selectmen, and so that you can add members and we can add members as they come forward. So, Peter, you had a list of names.
Committee members?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I have that for the purposes of the motion?
Would you like it now?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, can I just
I was
ask,
just gonna say, before we.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a motion now.
Yeah, okay.
We should hear everybody, but,
They're all underlined.
okay. All right.
You all set?
I am. Thank
no,
you.
and I appreciate everything, everything Bill says, and I'm very supportive of this as well, and I think this is a great representation of people so far, and you guys have proven over and over again, every one of you, every time you put your eye on a prize, you achieve it, and we're very lucky to have you in town and engaged as you guys are. With that, prior to Bill making a motion forming the committee, which I think now, and sorry, Bill, it took a little while for you to get me there, why we were going to do that tonight. But is there a specific number of folks that you have in mind to be on this committee? Obviously, the folks that are involved now, did you have a number, whether it was 7, 23, 48, whatever it was, or do you just want us, or are you just waiting for us to?
There's 7 of us now that form
I count
the
10.
committee. Is it 10?
Yeah.
Oh, I said
That was my only thing, if you had a set number, if it's these 10, or if you
We
wanted
just-
13
I
or
just think
15, or are you going to leave room
this
to
all
grow?
started with Peter and his wife, so kind
Yep.
of putting their, brainstorming, hey, who can we get involved?
Sure.
Who's been involved in the past in such projects? Obviously, Brian came to mind because he was the
Of course, the
originator
original,
of
yep.
that. I'm the chairman of the parks, the citizens from Milford, people that are kind of engaged with things within the town. So that's kind of
Great.
how it formed. We kind of brainstormed the start of it,
Yeah.
obviously Mr. Treadle and his wife and other members, but, we brought it to this point for a reason. We're bringing our idea to you guys, and
No, and it's a great, I just didn't know if you guys already talked and had like a finite number of folks that you wanted to actually be on the committee, if that's already set, or,
Yeah, we've had several meetings already, the committee members. And the first meeting, what was interesting is that my wife went around and took pictures of surrounding towns and memorial parks, the pristine condition that these are in, and then showed our memorial parks. And, you've got pointing and repairs to the stonework. There's broken bricks and stained bricks and all kinds of issues there. There's the foundation at each entrance where the marble's all broken and missing. The benches are sad.
wear and tear.
Yeah,
It's
been a long time.
It's over
Yeah.
25 years old, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the parks they've looked at, they're 2 years old, or a year old for
Yeah,
that
that's a
matter,
good point.
So, the structure itself has held up pretty good, but the walkways are even, the benches are, they're wood. Just those little things, It's time to update it, it really is.
Yeah, the lawn, the irrigation system.
Yeah.
The trees, a lot of rotted trees there. It'd be nice to have a consistent replacement of trees, nice trees that could be decorated during the holidays.
I'd like to speak to Bill's comments on the finances. The idea was that we would do the first phase with an RFP from the committee, so as not to have to go through the whole bureaucratic process of bidding, which brings the cost up. And present that, the final, not the final, but the conceptual plan to the town as a gift of the committee. That was the concept.
Well, certainly committees can fundraise, Steve. The problem is and I'm not an attorney, so I'll have to put you in touch with our town council. I'm not sure you can go out for RFPs for town-owned property, and so.
Oh, okay.
It may be the challenge. Now, that doesn't preclude anybody from taking donations, absorbing some of the cost of planning and designs. But I think I would put you in touch with town council, because I think, number one, I think it should be a committee formed by the Board of Selectmen, or empowered by the Board of Selectmen, I should say, not formed, because you've already formed. Empowered by the Board of Selectmen, and then making sure we do things in a way that's, because it is town property, consistent with Mass General Law and the requirements of procurement. I think I just don't see any way, what we call bureaucracy, like
We
RFPs,
understand.
those types of things.
we thought that the appropriate time to appoint that committee would be either just before town meeting or after town meeting had made the decision. But that the whole phase one would be a gift of the committee to the town, assuming we can get the donations.
Yeah, I think this is a matter for council, right? Would you?
Well,
I don't want to slow it down, but at
I
the
think
same
you can
time-
do that. I think, though, going to need to involve three people, town council,
Yep.
town engineer,
Yep.
and myself as the procurement officer to make sure we comply. So I think we can accomplish, I think, what you're looking to do.
And the other
But we should be
question
able to
is-
assist you or be involved with you, that's all.
The other point with that is that we were, you have a grant writer now, right?
We have not yet, but we will, yes.
Okay, so if we have the grant writer, then we would modify that by saying we gotta be on board with the town up front.
This could be one of the projects he or she helps us seek grants for.
We don't know that we're gonna get all these donations.
Right.
So if we're unsuccessful, then we'll have to do
Plan B.
do it differently.
Yeah.
And in fairness to Selectman Kincaid, I'd like you to finish any questions.
No, the only
that-
thing I had, and it's really a compliment to, again, all the folks here, because I just want to remember, I think when, and which was one of the best ceremonies I've ever been a part of in 42 years, the Medal of Freedom ceremony.
Liberty.
I'm sorry, Medal of Liberty.
I did the same thing.
I know, I'll always do that for some reason. I just want to remind folks, because he did announce it, but I also had a private conversation with him. Adjutant General Gary Keefe, for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, who spoke, who you guys had come here, when he came through town, he stopped. And he said out of all the towns he goes through, 351, he's never seen so many American flags in a single town. And he stopped at Draper Park and walked through it. And he said he was just thrown back by, how impressive that was. So to the Parks Department, granted, it's getting aged, and to you folks, starting that, because it's literally one of our favorite things to see all those flags out there. That, here's our Adjutant General that came out to Milford and literally stopped in the middle of traffic to get out and walk around that park. And again, I know he shared that with all of us at the ceremony, but people who are at home watching who maybe weren't there, that, that was pretty impressive, and it is impressive. So I just wanted to throw that out there and just remind folks, because you guys did a hell of a job and with that ceremony. And again, the park looks beautiful every time. And I don't know one person who doesn't stop, or when you get there, just kind of get overwhelmed a little bit. So thank you for all that.
Especially when you read
It's good to hear. Thank you very much.
Okay, so,
As you made reference to earlier, I am a current member of the committee, and Peter, Steve, and Paul, to your comments, Claudia did take pictures, and I won't name the names of the communities, but to see the way that the memorials are in other communities and the way that ours is in this community is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And, Milford's a town rich in history. And we need to address it. And I commend you for coming forward, forming this committee that wants to address it. But I think what's also very important, and you make a point to three people that served on the school committee, and one of the things that we talk about on the school committee is we spend millions of dollars building a new building, and then we do nothing to it.
Yep.
And one of the smartest things we did was appoint a facilities manager. I don't know how long Rob Quinn's been around, but I'm going to say I was in the school committee 9 years. He was there when I arrived. But he went around building by building and fixed all the things that needed to be fixed, and then set up a maintenance schedule. And gentlemen, I don't know if it was our first or our second meeting, but I was quite taken back by, I never knew Draper Park had an irrigation system that didn't work. I never knew that Draper Park had an electrical issue going on. Shame on us. We spent all that money to build that park whenever it was, and we never maintained it. This past Veterans Day Parade, you stand in Calzone Park and you're proud to be there, but you look at it and say, I've been here over 30 years and it hasn't changed. Maintenance. So we invest the money, and I believe in my heart that this community will invest the money to fix those parks and make them what they really truly should be. But then we also have a responsibility to make sure that we set up committees, we set up maintenance programs, that those parks are continually taken care of. And to Selectman Kincaid's point, the flags, they're overwhelming. I drive by them every single night on my way home from work. They're overwhelming. But I have to tell you this, I drive by and I see you people setting them up and I see you people taking them down. That should be the responsibility of the maintenance people. People that we say, Memorial Day's coming, Veterans Day's coming, these need to be set up, these need to be put there. And if you're there to supervise them, that's one thing. But it should be somebody's job. It should be something that we're proud of in this community to say, we're going to take a stakeholder in this, and we're going to fund it. We're going to spend the money. We're going to revitalize these parks. And this is what we're going to do going forward. And so I go back to my first comment is I saw the pictures of other communities. Overwhelming. Do I think that's where we should be? Absolutely and beyond. But I also agree with you, gentlemen, that we have a responsibility to make a commitment, that when we're long gone, 30 years from now, the Board of Selectmen won't be sitting here saying, well, we spent all that money back then, and why didn't we maintain them? And so that's a very, very important part of our commitment. And I think you can tell by the three of us sitting here tonight that we're on board.
Good.
We're on board with you.
Great.
And I don't mean to speak for my other two members, but I get the gist. But we also understand we have a commitment to you and to your committee that we also have a responsibility to make sure that what gets done also gets taken care of.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Selectman Buckley?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we create an ad hoc Milford War Memorial Parks Revitalization Committee. I see 10 members here, and I hear more members likely to be added. I know committees always struggle with this. That is, creating such a large committee that you're not herding cats and still are effective and able to move forward. So I'm going to recommend that what I see are 10. What I'm going to recommend is that we appoint 15 openings, and that if you need more, let us know. We're not trying to limit it, but we're also mindful, each of us has served on different committees and boards. And we know at some number, you reach a cap where it's just so hard to get anything done. You want the right number and the right effort. So I'm going to make a motion, again, Milford War Ad Hoc Committee for Milford War Memorial Park Revitalization Committee. I'm going to recommend that board be appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and that it have 15 members, and that it begin with Brian Murray, Mike Walsh, Paul Pellegrini, Steve Treadle, Paul Malnati, Nancy Wojcik, Donna Nero, Rosemary Treadle, and Peter and Claudia Scandone.
I'll gladly second
I'm sorry for butchering that.
That's okay, and I'll make that unanimous.
And let us know if you need anything else, and that way you can work with procurement, you can work with legal.
Okay.
But more veterans and veterans groups, see if we can get them for the openings in the committee, and just submit the names to this board, and we can make the appointments.
Okay, so if we need to add a
Should be easy.
couple of names to that, or we'll give you the names that we,
Yeah, there are 5
You
more.
can go up to 15.
There are 5 more. And if you find that limiting, please let us know.
15.
and we need to involve the downtown revitalization committee too.
What's that?
Need to, the downtown.
Yeah, you have a member in Paul on
Yeah.
it, so.
Yep.
So I think you have representation from that committee as well with Paul Malnati. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for,
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
you as well, and your families.
Thank you.
And your families.
Peter, actually, could you get me a copy of that? I wasn't quick enough with the names. You could scan it to me. I just feel I never got one.
A few more minutes.
It doesn't matter.
That's okay.
She's here for Dunkin'. We have.
Okay.
About what?
I got the names on it.
She's here about what?
I'll take this.
That's the whole plan.
All right. If you could ask. I know waiting all this time to be here for 2 minutes. When it's
Okay, next agenda item, Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 4 items tonight. One, I just want to report that the new roof on the Purchase Street School was installed past week. I just want to thank Facilities Director Carlos Benjamin for overseeing the project and completing it in a timely and efficient manner. I also want to alert the board that the Route 85 Cedar Street median markers will be installed within the next week or so. These are the markers that will be within the Route 85 Cedar Street roadway, immediately north of the intersection with Fortune Boulevard and Diller Street. Highway Surveyor Scott Christopher Foley will be overseeing this project. The usual Thanksgiving Eve reminder, the Town Hall will be closed at 1 p.m. on Wednesday, November 21st, the day prior to Thanksgiving. We will be open normal hours on Friday, November 23rd. And finally, Fire Chief William Toohey has informed the Finance Director and myself that the town will receive a reimbursement from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, for the cleanup costs submitted by the Fire Department, Police Department, Highway Department, and Tree Department, believe it or not, for the 2013 blizzard.
Wow.
The amount of the reimbursement will be $130,808. That represents nearly 75% of the total cleanup expenses by the town. So I guess better late than never, but it's a nice Thanksgiving gift. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't look at it as a gift. You know, our businesses, our residents pay federal taxes. It's going to other communities who are in need when struck by environmental or weather-related hardships. And 5 years later, that's just incredible how slow the federal government works, but it is appreciated. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Jump to new business.
Let me just, you have anything?
No, I don't have anything. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm good.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Even move to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, we will. And what we're gonna do is, we're gonna jump ahead into new business. This nice
Yes.
lady's been patiently waiting. So come on right up, please, and identify yourself.
Anita Hool, Dunkin' Donuts. Cedar Donuts, Common Vic, Route 85.
Okay. So this is an application, Rick, for
It's
common,
a new common victual license, correct?
common vicular license.
For a new Dunkin' Donuts.
That's what you need to get going in Milford, right? There's nothing down there.
No, you're right.
Perfect little spot.
It's going to be great for me in the morning.
Okay, building commissioner approved. Town planner, I should say, approved. No outstanding taxes. Town treasurer, no outstanding liens. Fire chief, no comment yet. Police chief, approved. Board of Health, approved. Sewer, Milford Water, and Commission on Disability have not commented yet, correct, Rick?
Correct, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
some of it's still in construction, so obviously, anything you do may be subject to Board of Health, et cetera.
Correct. That's the point I wanted to make, that. Bill?
Yeah, Board of Health has received the application, hasn't yet approved. I just want to make sure that, again, the same thing, that while we can approve the new common victular license application, as always, you'd be subject to Board of Health recommendations, changes, requests, as fire suppression. Sewer Commission, certain has grease trap requirements and different things that, and we have no information from them. So I would say, you know, we can approve pending additional restrictions and guidance provided by the Board of Health, Sewer Commission, Milford Water Company, Commission on Disability, and anybody else. I'm trying to think, is there anybody else I'm missing? And of course, the building commissioner always has authority over that. He hasn't given final approval, right?
No, construction's been pushed off again. Now they're saying week of December 20th.
Oh,
We're waiting
okay.
on the gas station.
Okay.
So we're inside the gas station.
Okay.
But we pulled a common vic.
Yes, it's still based upon all that approval.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, so it's still a ways to go for approval from Building Commissioner, Sewer, Board of Health. Yeah, I just, normally we have the conditions
Yeah, I
laid
think
out.
you were originally gonna go sooner though, weren't you?
We were
Yeah.
already supposed to be opened.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to be on October's agenda, and we had to push it off
Pushed it
to
off.
November's agenda.
Perhaps I could suggest that we get the final approvals, we do a revised department head review form, bring it before the board, and hopefully everybody has signed off at that point. And
May not be able to still.
Yeah, well, again, I would not bring it to the board until we have that.
Oh, okay.
I know they're looking at a December opening, and I think everybody's gonna try to comply so that they can do that. I know you've been pushed back, though.
So are you recommending we not take action tonight? Or-
If the board takes action, then I would take it subject to, though.
Okay.
I
All right,
don't have a
let's do
problem
that.
with that, and I will
Can we,
get.
she's been here
Yeah,
an hour
let's
and a
do
half.
that.
We didn't have to have her here tonight. She
will
may have
get
an
it.
Uxbridge address. This is a Milford person.
I will still get a follow-up department head review form for the file.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so.
All right, so let's do it this way. Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the common victual license for Dunkin' Donuts, 111 Cedar Street, Milford, for 7 days, 24 hours, and that we do that pending review and approval from Building Commissioner, Board of Health, Sewer Commission, Water Company, and Commission on Disabilities, where we don't have information.
And I'll gladly second that.
Okay.
And before I make it unanimous, I just want to be clear that we're not going to grant it until you've met all the requirements. So we're taking a vote tonight, and I will make it unanimous, but under Mr. Valano's.
Yeah, it will be granted.
Subject.
They're not gonna be able
Subject
to,
to.
subject to. They're not gonna be able to use it or put it into effect.
Until everything's signed off.
Correct.
Right,
But I don't want to be a roadblock for you either.
right, and I will make
No,
that.
because these construction people are roadblock for us.
Yeah. I don't want government
Waiting on the
to,
gas station people, and we're ready.
yeah, I don't want government.
I know you've been ready for a couple of months, and I feel.
Yeah, we have been.
Yeah, I know, we've talked a few
Good
times.
luck with that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So can I just, will Daniele upstairs have whatever I need to get?
Not until these permits and everything is signed off. We will have it.
Correct,
But you will pick it up in my
I didn't
office.
write anything down?
That's the office.
No, you'll
That
pick
you're
it up in my
aware of.
office, yeah,
All
Danielle.
right, just
yeah.
so I know what I need to make sure is completed. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can come and see me if you'd like. I have the information for you.
Just for the record, I made that unanimous.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So it's a vote.
Okay, we're going to stay in new business.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience.
Lots of luck.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Where's my salesman?
Thank you.
And now I use your salmon. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
You too, you too. The next new business is from the Chief of Police, a street sign request. As a matter of practice, for the safety of children, the town has installed these signs, therefore I recommend installation of the requested signs. Good afternoon, I am contacting you today to request that a sign, "Slow Autistic Child at Play," or something similar, be put up on Sydney Road. I have a 6-year-old nonverbal autistic grandchild that lives with me. He is extremely fast and he has tried to dart across the street. The drivers that turn onto Sydney from Claudette or Joseph's Road do not, in capital letters, do not slow down, and I am fearful that my grandchild will get hurt or worse. Please let me know if there is any paperwork to fill out or anything that would need to be done on my part. Thank you. And this is approved, I shouldn't say approved. This is a letter that was sent to us from the Chief of Police. And again, I read, as a matter of practice for the safety of children, the town has installed these signs, therefore I would recommend the installation of these signs.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
And I would make that unanimous as well. And the last in new business is the Milford High School permit to obstruct. Milford High School class of 2021, looking to obstruct. Rick, I don't see the dates of the times on here.
Actually, it's very, very small print. They're looking for a permit to obstruct for a 5K race, believe it or not, on May 11th. We
Oh,
do
I'm
have
sorry,
something
yes.
in some of our guidelines that talk about 6 months
do
before,
s-
and they have actually complied with that.
Yeah, I do see it. 5K race beginning at Milford High School, proceeding to West Fountain Street, to Congress Street, to North Vine Street, to Highland Street, back to West Fountain Street, ending at the high school bus loop.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, I know, I can read that. I was just wondering what date where they're asking us to approve.
That's way down on the bottom.
It is. It's
It's
you
even
gotta
smaller
really,
print.
you gotta really look at the
11th.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta really find it. I
Mr.
had
Chairman,
to
I'd
look.
make a motion to approve this request.
Seconded.
I would make that unanimous as well. Okay, now we're gonna go back up to old business.
Actually, if we're still in new business, there was one add-on, the gift to the Milford Youth Center in the amount of $1,000, the Milford National Bank Charitable Foundation, and it's to be used to assist low to moderate income individuals. So this is something that came on very late.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry, I didn't see
Rather
the
than
add-on.
not being able to deposit the check, I was hoping that the board could vote to accept the gift tonight. It comes from, well, I guess, as of today, they're not the Milford National Bank, but Kristen T. Cavallo, is the president and CEO.
I have a quick question. Am I comfortable to vote on that with?
Well, I would think so. yeah.
Okay.
To accept the gift,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep,
I don't see
okay.
a problem. I'm
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we accept that gift on behalf of, and thank Rockland Trust and Kristen Cavallo, President and CEO of Milford National. I know it's right on that transition, right?
Today, I believe.
Today it took effect? Okay, the sale, okay. All right.
I'll second that.
And I would make that unanimous. Okay, with that, we go up into old business, and we have 3 appointments tonight. Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, that we've been asked by the chairman of the zoning board of appeals to put their appointment on hold.
He asked if it could be continued to the next meeting. He wanted himself to review some of the talent bank applications.
Okay.
And he may or may not make a recommendation to the board.
Okay, so therefore, we have the Conservation Commission appointment and the Geriatric Authority.
Correct.
So much paperwork here.
A lot of great applications, Mr. Chairman. A
go right
lot of
ahead.
qualified people, and, you know, I want to note that a lot of people have had their applications in for a very, very long time. And some of these will expire, so. Some since 16. I think there's some since 15 in other packets, and some that are very recent. No, even one in 11/2/15. So. Mr. Chairman, I've gone through a great deal of these applications in the past. There's considerable experience with folks that have applied for zoning, sorry, in this case, it's the Conservation Commission. And I can see a number of people filling this position, both by way of resume and by just personal interest. So I'm interested to hear what the board has to say, and if there's any suggestions that we could talk about or motions.
Mr. Chairman, I've ranked a few. Domingos Rhoda is my number one. He's worked for a number of local businesses and large businesses, and is a project manager now at Sumco Eco Contracting, and has a BS in civil engineering from Wentworth Tech.
Yeah, it was a candidate I saw rise up out of the resumes as well. There are a lot of qualified people, though, not to take away from the others.
Well, my personal opinion is, I think that we need to appoint somebody that has a vested interest in the community. And I as well went through all the applications, and again, there are a lot of qualified people that have applied for this, to lack of better terminology, an appointment, a volunteer position. And I will say the same. When I came across Domingos's resume, I don't personally know him. I know him from within the community. And if you look at his resume and his experience, in my opinion, I think that he would be, out of all the applicants, and I don't mean to take anything away from anybody that has taken the time to fill out and apply for the position, I think that out of everybody, Domingos, in my opinion, would be the best choice, and that would be my vote as well.
Yeah, he has land development management for Toll Brothers, estimator operations manager for Eastland Partners. He worked for Afonso Builders and now works for Sumco Contracting. These people deal with conservation issues every day as builders, and it's my hope that folks with some level of experience come in and help people navigate through the process. They know where they've had trouble, and I don't mean trouble where just difficulty understanding who to go to next and what to do next.
Correct.
So if that's a motion.
Yeah, I'll be glad to make that motion. I just want to add that we're also filling the vacancy of someone who has a ton of experience.
Yes.
And it's important. So, yeah, with that, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Domingos Rhoda to the Conservation Commission.
I'd second that.
And I would make that unanimous. And Rick, if we could get a letter out to the gentleman that is retiring on the board?
Yes.
Please, if you don't
Might have
mind.
already, but I'll double check.
Buckley.
Yep.
Okay, and we're going to skip over the zoning board as we've been asked to by the chairman for some more time. And the next appointment would be to the Geriatric Authority. Bill?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, again, we've got a great list of candidates who have come forward. But with one that stuck out that I ranked higher, and that's for George V. Holland, former town meeting member, former school committee member, practicing attorney for 45 years. I'm happy to make that motion to appoint George Holland.
I'll second that.
And before I vote on that, I want to make reference to what Selectman Buckley just made reference to, is that Attorney Holland was school committee member, lifelong resident of Milford, an attorney in town, has given back to this community in many, many ways. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of the applicants that have applied for it, for the position, but I as well feel that when you sit in our chairs, I feel that at this time, Attorney Holland is the best person to represent the community at the Geriatric Authority, and I would make that unanimous as well. Okay. And next agenda item is Department of Inspections, the task force. Is that you, Rick?
Yeah, just the report's there. We've had the task force operational. I think they're doing some good work. We meet once a month. We have a list of properties, investigations. I think adding town council has been a very good addition. Charles has done some good work on it. So it's more there for the board's just review to see some of the properties that are being worked on and the compliance issues that are being resolved. So for no other reason, unless the board has some comment.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say I'm glad we get these reports. There's, among other things, certainly a lot of rumors going out around there about a lot of different things in this town, myself included, and one of which has been a pretty nasty anonymous letter that was circulated about our building commissioner in that office. And let me tell you, I think if people have any questions about the amount of work that's getting done out of that office, maybe, Rick, they should come to town, come by your office or come by the town hall to request these reports, because there's a great deal of work getting done, especially in an office that still isn't staffed to the level it should be. And I just feel obligated that as an elected leader in this town, that we also have to point out when maybe some not so flattering things are being circulated that just aren't true. And I would hope that if you're seeing something out of that office that isn't being done, we would have known it by now. And I know that you work very closely with the building commissioner's office. And I just, again, unless there's something I'm not aware of, I have felt very confident that a lot of hard work is coming out of there, and I feel like maybe these reports should get a little bit more attention going forward, and I'll put that on this board to do so, because you do provide it and make sure that they provide it to us, Rick, which I appreciate.
We're gonna try to get you reports every month so that you can see, and if there's any need for special reports, we'll get those to you too.
Okay. No, I just think it's very important that there's still a lot of work going on with an office that is very understaffed.
And the only thing that I would add to that, Rick, is it possible that you could give us what the actual filing was? In other words, why they're being asked for the inspection?
Okay, sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in other words, we look at it and we see the landowner, we see the address. If you could just give us as a board the reason that it was filed?
Okay.
Just so we have an idea, so that if we, any one of us decides to go ourselves to look at the property, we know what we're looking for.
Okay, sure.
If you could do that.
Yeah, we could, yeah.
Thank you.
Mike, is that over and above what's listed? So if I look at, as an example, 68 School Street, I see nuisance property, contractor yard visible from Stacy School. On 56 Lawrence Street, I see overgrown vegetation. Overgrown vegetation. Again, contractor yard, 10 Charles Street. I'm trying to understand what might be missing, so.
I'm looking at this. I get the cover letter.
Got you.
So I'm looking at all the
So more
inspections.
sure, yep, not a
See
problem.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, so for example, on number 1, where it says zoning, 14 West Street nuisance,
Right,
and we just see number 2, zoning.
right.
So-
What is the nuisance?
Sure, we'll get some more detail. Yep, yep.
All right, that makes sense, because there was a fair amount in the
In the
cover
opening
letter.
letter.
Yeah,
I
okay,
agree.
sure.
I agree with you.
All right.
Yep.
I agree.
And yeah, I'd agree. Rick, do you have an update? That forces and begs a different question. I know we've been begging and borrowing from other communities for a local inspector to help fill in. Is there any updates on what the strategy is for that, to fill that
Right now, we
position?
have Lawrence Hester comes from Lawrence. He originally started out at 10 hours. We have added him just this week, as a matter of, just past week, I'm sorry, another 5 hours. So we're gonna go 15 hours right now with him. We did try to seek other locals. Some of the people that were interested, unfortunately, are not right now eligible to take the exam that needs to be taken. One of them is pursuing it. Actually, 2 of them are pursuing it. But if and until they're eligible to take the exam and actually pass the exam, we're somewhat reluctant to go that route.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking much broader, right? We've posted and had, lack of success getting
Say
qualified
very little
candidates.
success, correct.
Qualified candidates for the position. And so the question is, I don't want to be a victim of hope, so what do you think the strategy should be going forward? What is it that's contributing to our inability to get candidates? What is it that,
I think it's a number of things. I think it's the nature of the position. A lot of individuals aren't willing to take on that position. They have their own disciplines that they're working in, whether they be plumbers, carpenters, construction people. That's number one. I think we're going to have to headhunt a little bit, and I've talked with Maureen, our HR director, to see if there are other avenues that we can pursue to try to attract good qualified candidates. But it is, in my 6 years almost here, one of the most difficult positions to fill, or departments to fill.
yeah, I'd be interested, let's utilize our HR resources and our director of HR. I'm glad you are doing that. I appreciate you giving us that. Yeah, maybe a report would be wise on what it is that she thinks contributes to our inability to get qualified candidates interested in taking that position.
I'm
And there is no executive session tonight, so could I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjourn?
Seconded.
And I would make that unanimous. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much, and have a nice Thanksgiving from the Milford Board of Selectmen. Thank you.